Before we move into the next session, I want to share something special with you. It's called the Luminary Exchange. This is our private mastermind community for creative business owners who are ready to lead, collaborate, and exchange ideas at the highest level. Inside Sync Circle, Luminary members gather in a private space for roundtables, brainstorming sessions, and leadership-focused discussions that go deeper than anything else we offer. Twice a month, you'll have access to live virtual roundtables, plus a presenter series featuring video presentations from nationally known speakers and leaders. Once a year, right before Sync, we meet in person for a full mastermind day. It's limited to just 50 members, complete with meals, premium swag, and an incredible chance to connect face-to-face. The Luminary Exchange isn't about competition. It's about community. It's about sitting at the table with the brightest, most generous minds in the photography business. If that sounds like the level you're ready for, schedule a discovery call. You can learn more by visiting the Luminary post in the Perks and Partners space. Space is limited, and enrollment ends October 31st.
Hey everybody, Scott Detweiler here. Welcome to our Sync AI virtual summit. Huge thanks to Darty and Michelle for creating this event and keeping everyone updated on the ever-changing field that is AI and photography these days. And today we're going to be exploring prompting with AI image generation software like Midjourney, Dream Studio, Korea, Adobe Firefly, etc. These are all the same. They're all based on technology called Stable Diffusion. For the past 3 years, I've actually been working at Stability, the people that invented this technology, in a role that allows me to help guide that product development. So what you're going to be learning today is something I'm going to teach you. Isn't something I've learned from like watching other YouTubers or from another presenter. It's part of my actual day job. So you're going to get it firsthand and how we use these tools properly. This is the current state of the art, by the way, but there's a lot more coming. So next year when we get to Sync, I will reveal that, but currently it's not attainable. This industry is moving so fast right now, and right now it's such in the early stages that prompt engineering is a skill that you're going to have to learn. But in a few years, this will probably be one of those things that you won't have to learn anymore because technology will be past that. It's kind of like having to solder together your first computer, and now they sell them already assembled. So today I'm going to show you how to write better prompts, how to refine them, and how to even use them to edit your pictures given text instructions. So I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I can, but I'm going to give you a formula that you can always rely on. Now, another thing I'm going to discuss is what I call my power words, and these are words that are just going to appear often. They're regular English words, but I think they have a profound impact on the way the images are rendered. So I'm going to give you some of those to play with. And again, this is all homework and things for you to play with and practice with. Find what works for you, and then this will all sing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a couple different products here. I'm going to kind of interchange them because, again, they're all somewhat the same, but they do have different artistic nuances. And I do want to talk about that a bit. So let's get started. Now, as we work through these different technologies and different things, I want you to think of prompting as a formula, just like putting together a recipe or baking bread. There's certain steps you need to do in order to have the best possible success. Even if you just kind of put it together half-assed, you're going to end up with something, but is it what you wanted? And that's the goal, is to try and make these models produce exactly what we want in the quickest time possible. Now, there are some situations where you're going to have to iterate through problem solving. But think about this. Like 3 years ago, this didn't even exist. I mean, how cool is it for you to be able to type in text and get an image that looks like what you're asking for? I mean, this is better than paying thousands of dollars for something from Getty that all of us can have the same image. But now what we're doing is we're prompting for something that only we have. And that's the other thing to remember here too, is that once these images are created and you go to the next one, if you didn't save it, it's gone forever, right? Unless you download it from the piece of software or you're using a site that allows you to archive things. Once you see an image and you delete it, you can never get it back. There are an infinite number of those images produced by the prompt that you enter. So realize just the cool factor of that is there's an infinite number of space station hallways if you're looking for one for a high school senior shoot or a high school logo on fire. There's an infinite number of those. So kind of keep that in mind. So there's a cool factor here. And I will tell you the biggest hurdle you're going to have to get past for this whole thing is your creativity. The creativity you approach a problem with and say, well, I need a hallway for a high school senior who's into, say, video games, and I want to look like something out of a game. It's fine, but can you do better? Can you come up with something more creative? And that's going to be the hard part. I've said that sentence like, I don't know, 8 times. I'm just going to say, if you're running into a problem, use OpenAI, ChatGPT, things like that to give you ideas, but don't look on them to writing the perfect prompt because it isn't going to work the right way. I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. Someday we'll show ChatGPT how to do it the right way, but until then, do it this way. I'll show you how to do it. So let's look at prompting as a formula. So the first thing we want to talk about is the rough scene description. So basically, think of it like you're walking up to someone who's drawing something in the street, they're painting a picture for you, and you want to describe what you want. You would say, oh, well, I want a picture of a girl. And so we draw this big circle with the face, and then you'd say, oh, and I want her next to a boy. And you're like, well, now he's got to start over because he's filled the whole surface with this girl's face. And he'll be like, is there any other thing you need to tell me? Well, yeah, they're on a fire truck. Okay, well, now he's going to draw the fire truck. So you want to try and give as much information up front as possible. So I'm going to call it the rough scene description. And you want to be very generic about it. For example, let's use the Jack and Jill going up the hill to get a bucket of water, right? We could say something along the lines of a boy and a girl going up a hill. So we've given enough information to say that we have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and there's a hill involved. And that's enough information for us to block out roughly the scene we're going to be detailing. So we're going to start there. Now, after that, you can put a comma or a period or nothing. It doesn't matter. The model itself doesn't care. So for human readability, do what you want to do, but don't worry about it. Don't get stuck in the weeds about, well, I used 2 commas or 3 commas. Even misspellings probably will be fine. So don't freak out about that, right? The second part is we want to give detailed information about each of those major things we mentioned in the rough scene description. For example, what's the boy wearing? Let's say he's wearing blue overalls and he's carrying a bucket. Okay, is there water in the bucket? Maybe. So we could say there's water in the bucket. You could say what kind of water there is, if there's fish in the bucket. Like, give any details you want to give. The girl is wearing, say, a yellow dress with blue flowers, and then the hill itself has yellow flowers. So you could go into those descriptions and say how you want to say that. The last part is the style guidance. So the style guidance is what kind of artistic endeavor are you using here? Is it a watercolor, a color pencil? Is it pen and ink? Is it a photo? Whatever it is that you want to give. Now, be careful not to give conflicting information through any parts of this. For example, let's say we want to do something by the Swiss artist H.R. Geiger. He's one of my favorite artists. He's the guy who did all the design of the aliens from the Alien movies. So very bizarre pen and ink, airbrush type of black and white imagery. And then let's take him and Thomas Kincaid and say they had a baby, right? So what would that art look like? This very brutalist looking, very bizarre, organic looking kind of stuff that him, but then you get the Thomas Kincaid, all the color and the lightheartedness feel of that imagery. Well, that's very interesting. That's a nice combination. But if we wanted a photo, for example, we wouldn't mention their names. The same thing as if we wanted an oil painting, we wouldn't say oil painting and then say Nikon 55 millimeter, because that's going to also cause a problem. It's like, do you want a painting or do you want a picture? Because both of those things are conflicting. So it's going to have them married together. This is all math at the end of the day. The concept of a camera or a Nikon is just a number. And the concept of an oil painting is just a number. And it just adds them together. But if you're trying to get a photo, be careful not to give yourself conflicting information because it's going to produce something goofy. The other part to think about these is that when you mention a word in a prompt, you're almost asking it to be proven to you. For example, if you're trying to get a picture of a woman that's far away and her dress is flowing in the breeze, Sal Sankata looking kind of imagery where tiny people we call them, right? You get this beautiful scene and the bride's veil is like 50 feet long. You wouldn't say she has blue eyes because the model's going to have to zoom in on her face to show you that she's got blue eyes. So realize that you've given yourself kind of a conflicting information. You're saying, prove to me that she's got blue eyes, but I also want her to be small in the scene. In the same situation, you say she's beautiful, it's probably going to be a 3/4 upper body shot, headshot kind of thing, because she has to be proven she's beautiful. So you can't say beautiful woman with her back to the camera because you're going to have a problem because it's going to want her to face the camera. So be aware of certain phrases you use in those prompts can affect how it positions the person in the scene. Another one is, say you want the full body of a person. Using the term full body may work, but it's probably better to just say she's wearing red shoes, for example. So now it has to prove to you that she's wearing red shoes, and you're going to end up with a full body scene. So think about the terms that you're using and what would have to be proven to you. If you say she's got red shoes on and she's got blue eyes, it's going to come to which one comes first. Because words that are beginning or toward the beginning part of the prompt actually weigh more. So there's advanced prompt weighting, which we're not really going to get into today, but the way for you to make words weigh a little bit more. I might touch on that a bit in Dream Studio, but just note that usually the words that are said first are the ones that are going to have the most weight. Just like when we say to the person, this is the rough idea of the scene I want, we want that to be in there first. We don't want to talk about the style, like I'm looking for an oil painting and blah, 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 and then start to kind of sketch in, oh, and there's a boy and a girl and growing up with that. That's backwards. And you're going to find you have a lot less success in that second part. You might still get something. You might actually have a happy accident, which is where you get that like, aha, something that you did not expect. But in general, we don't want to play that game. We want to roll with the dice that we know are loaded and try and get the best result we can immediately. So that's the goal we're going to have. All right, let's take a look in a couple of these different products and play with this prompting concept and make sure that you have it. So the first product I'm going to start with here is Midjourney. So Midjourney has been around a long time. It's actually one of the very first systems that was online. It was not a web-based product initially. It was a Discord-based product. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's kind of like a chat system. But it's one of the systems that actually Stability helped to fund, and they were one of the first people to use our technology. So it's a very cool site. It is a very specific type of art style usually. Even if you ask for a photo, it still kind of has a smell to it. We'll say it just, it is what it is. I love it. I actually have a very happy Midjourney subscriber, even though I work for a different company. I still appreciate what this is. So as we open it up, you're going to see that there's also a lot of video. These are things that have been posted by other people in the community. This is one of the things about Midjourney that's interesting, is you can see what other people are working on, which means they can see what you're working on. And also because you cannot copyright AI-generated material, that means that anyone can actually just steal it and run with it. And you're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff on here. You can see the variety of imagery is insane. Now, these are videos. I'm not really going to get into video today so much, but if we just go and click on images alone, these are the images that are now showing up. So we can find any specific image that we'd like, and if we click on it, it's going to show you the prompt that the person used. And this is a great example of a terrible prompt. So first of all, most of these engines are limited to 77 to 128, the word is tokens. And a token is a piece of a word, like TH, for example, or the, them, their. TH is one token. So it's a little less than the number of letters. So we usually say the number of tokens is about 1.3 tokens to a word. So just in general, if there's 77 tokens, this is way more than that. So try and be in the middle with it, right? We want to try and come up with, say, something that's not too short, but yet descriptive. In this case, they're also doing it the wrong direction. If you notice that they're starting with energy and emotion, a dramatic centerpiece of an image is a powerful toast in the foreground. Okay, so I'm actually surprised that they didn't end with a piece of toast in the foreground. In fact, I would bet that this image took them a long time to get, again, through the happy accident idea. But still very long and not exactly what I would use as an ideal prompt. We could probably get there with a quarter of this amount of text. But again, it's still a great image. At the end of the day, it is what it is. So you can see that there's a big variety. So when you're looking at these things, think about the fact of what would you do with it. The goal is not to simply download something. So when you're looking at these things, think about the goal of what you're doing. The goal isn't just to create some art and then download it, right? The idea is to use it as a tool. So if we have an image and we need a background, for example, I'll show a picture on the screen here of someone dressed as Maleficent in Chalamet Studio, and I needed a background. So I was able to, and the word is inference, not generate, inference a cave, or in this case, a castle, a medieval castle, and then I can put that into the scene using Photoshop. So I'm able to create a scene that no one else has, right? It's my photography, but it's the back of that castle there that I could never build. And to generate it in 3D would be many days of work. Now I can go in here, I can make that, and then I can just use my regular compositing skills and put it into Photoshop. Now there's much easier ways to do that now, but this is how I've been doing it for a while. And I'm really happy with that. I mean, it's like having an unlimited amount of stock photography that is exactly what you want it to be that no one else has. Now I want you to think about it from that standpoint, right? You're able to generate whatever it is that you need, and then you use it to finish your photography. It's photography first, not AI art first, right? So as we're looking at these different things, I want you to kind of keep in mind that. So anyway, just kind of, you can scroll through here and get ideas, and there's a lot of really great, crazy stuff in here. And again, this is a pretty good prompt. You know, it's talking about exactly what it wants. It's an obscured, blurred silhouette of a woman with long hair. You could probably actually stop near there, but you know, it's giving more directions on what it wants with the arm, which by the way, may or may not have worked, you know, may take them a while to get through. And you can see that there are other things in here. So they can actually attach examples, but examples are only used to the 20% or so of their likeness. So when you're trying to upload images into Midjourney, you're going to find that you're only getting about 20% of the likeness of the person. That's done to prevent a deep fake, meaning I don't want someone to look like someone that I'm not, and then I can misrepresent that person, putting them into precarious situations that you could then use as blackmail, for example. So we want to prevent the ne'er-do-wells in the world from wrecking and things. This is why we can't have nice things. We want to make sure that we don't break that. So they have a rule that about 20% of the likeness of something you upload will be that person. So if you upload a picture of your wife, it's going to be 80% Mr. Bean. You have no idea. It's not going to look like your wife. And that's okay, right? Our goal is photography first. So it's the rest of the scene that we care about. We're going to put our picture of our wife or our spouse or whatever back into that scene. But that background, what we created with these tools, is really our goal. So let's go back here. We just kind of goof around. I'm just looking at a bunch of different ones to kind of show you some examples. But so this is a very cute one, inflatable toy on a pastel background. That's good enough. Now, some of these other words you're going to see in here, and these are my power words list, you're going to say high resolution. Does that really make the image high resolution? It does not. What it does, though, is think about when the web was first scraped to create these models. The word high resolution would have been attached to a certain kind of image. Same with 8K. 8K is a resolution of a larger monitor or larger TV. The thing about 8K is that it tends to have a very aggressive depth of field. So if you use the word 8K, you're going to find that you have a depth of field that's going to be obvious. Now, in this case, they might try and solve that putting the word no blur or lack of depth of field. They're going to find that they're having a very difficult time because the word 8K is first and no blur is second. So it's not going to stop this situation from occurring. Sharp detail, okay, so they're attempting to bring that into the foreground. But I will tell you that after this, the rest of these are pretty much all saying the same thing. High quality render and high resolution are pretty much the same thing. But render implies that it will have a computer generated look. So if you're looking for a photo, don't use the word render, right? Also avoid using the word photorealistic. Photorealism is a style of art, right? It's not a photo. I would use words like Canon, Nikon, 50 millimeter. It doesn't mean you're going to get a 50 millimeter lens, though. It just means that you're going to have a photo because no painting ever has the words 50 millimeter attached to it. So think about what it is that you're asking for, and you'll end up getting a better result. So that's what Midjourney is. And again, very cool tool, one I still pay for and one that I enjoy. There are two subscription models that I'll bring your awareness to. One is $10 a month, or $10 for a trial. Don't do it. You're going to blow through it in about 20 minutes, and then you're going to buy the $30 one anyway. So if you're going to do this, just buy the $30 a month one and then enjoy yourself because it is quite fun. All of these are amazing tools to be an entertainment value, right? Consider from your entertainment budget. You're going to be able to make some cool things, some cool art. But I want you to always remember that at the end of the day, photography is first, right? We're not going to be making virtual headshots of people. And anyone who's willing to pay $10 for a virtual headshot, they aren't your customer anyway, right? I wouldn't worry about losing them. You didn't have them to begin with. But anyway, so you get the idea there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a different product. I'm going to show you Dream Studio. Dream Studio is not really released to the public. I mean, it's available and you can sign up for it, but it's not one that we advertise. It is a test bed for technology. So it's still being changed multiple times a day. and it gets updated constantly. But it's one of those that has more tools that are more of an interest to us as photographers. So Midjourney creates great art and great backgrounds and style and ideas and things along that lines, but it is not what I use for when I'm actually trying to do heavy lifting most of the time. Now, sometimes I'll borrow something from here because I like the style, I like the look. But what are you doing with it? You're putting as a background behind something. So you want to try and get the words that you're looking for to get the image out of it that you like. Okay, now I'm not going to feature dump on you here, but I'm going to show you Dream Studio a little bit, and then we're going to do some of those examples with a prompt I had discussed earlier. But the strategy here is the same, no matter the tool, if you're using Kriya or OpenArt or Dream Studio or Midjourney or ChatGPT, all of them use these same methods. Now, ChatGPT is the odd bird. ChatGPT does something different. And of course, no one knows what that is because they're a closed source company and they don't tell anybody. They don't release research papers on things. You basically use the product and you enjoy it. And we're going to use that a bit in a second to show you some of the directives-based editing. But I want to show you kind of how some of these other ones do it because this is more traditional in what we're used to. I think what you're going to see I think what you're going to see what ChatGPT is doing is becoming a little bit more common. So by the time we get around to sync in the springtime, you're going to see that being a lot more likely than some of these other methods. But who knows, right? We're inventing this as we go every day. It's going to change. So let's take a look at Dream Studio. So Dream Studio is very similar to Midjourney, except all of your work is your own. So I just have some really rough ones here I created. So you can see the prompt is very simple. A messy art studio from the 1700s. The room is filled with canvases and brushes and paint strewn on the floor. The walls are adorned. And you basically get the idea, right? I'm giving it a rough idea first and then kind of going from there. And this allows me to kind of mess with this scene. Now I can do different things with it and it's going to give me a couple of them. And I can look through and decide which one I like the most. But there's a lot of tools in here that we offer, like the ability to outpaint on a scene, which is to zoom out on something. So if you say, what does the rest of this room look like? We can just go ahead and generate something like that. Oftentimes, these type of mechanisms, like in Firefly, for example, do not need a prompt. In fact, sometimes giving it no prompt uses a different engine. We call it an in-painting engine, and I think the result is better. But in general, you're going to find that this tends to be a pretty cool feature. Like, I like to see, like, where's the Mona Lisa sitting? What is she doing? I don't know. Let's find out. Don't put a prompt in and see what happens. So there's a lot of capabilities over here, adding background, replacing the background on scenes, doing things like that. This is more of a system for directly editing the images that you're creating or to create them in general. But you get the idea. So let's go back and create that prompt earlier like I had discussed. So let's start with Jack and Jill, right? A boy and a girl going up a hill. You can put a carriage return or a period or whatever you want in here. It doesn't really matter. It's not anything the system cares about. It does count as a token, right? But it doesn't yield anything. So we're not going to get overly excited about that. So let's continue on here. Say the boy is wearing blue overalls and is carrying a bucket of water. And I could use a period here, or let's use a comma. The girl has blonde hair with braids. Be nice if I could spell the word braids. And is wearing a yellow dress with blue flowers. Okay? And then finally, style of an oil painting. So now we've given it all the information that we need, the rough scene description, and then we've gone through to the next part and added all the details for all the pieces that we want to have detailed. Now you can go pretty long with this. Again, you have 77 words minimum, or say maximum for most systems. I'm not going to break down what this is, but basically, I'll give you a little secret behind it. There are 3 different major language engines that are running this. We call them clip languages. One is L, which is the large one we use for artistic guidance on things. One's called the G, or the giant one, is used more for positional, understanding words are next to each other, and it likes words. And then the T5, which is the really big one, understands perfect English. Now, Dream Studio uses the T5 as well as the L and G. So you can use artist names, you can use different things like that, and it'll understand it. Midjourney, no one really knows. They have never told anybody, but because they were an early on adopter to this, they're probably using the L and G models, meaning common delimited list of words, not long English sentences, will tend to do better. But again, these engines change constantly, and who knows? OpenAI or ChatGPT does use more of a T5 type of encoder, so which means you can speak regular English to it. So just understand, sometimes the type of dialect you have to use to talk to these models will vary from vendor to vendor. So in this case, we'll just use a natural language. And I mean, most of the time you're going to have good luck with natural language, but if you're having trouble with it, drop down to just common delimited list of the major things you want to talk about or cover, the things you like the first one we saw where it was saying it was rendered, it was high resolution, it was 8K. That's a very old prompting method that still works pretty well on some of the older engines, but just note that there is a slight difference in those type of dialect. All right, so let's go back to this and take a look at how that's going to go together. So we've got it here, and we can ask for what type of, let's do a 3x2 here, and we want 4 images. Let's just hit create. And it's going to go ahead and generate those 4 images. Now we can put the same thing into Midjourney, and Midjourney has a different look and feel. Again, it's one that I enjoy. I have no problem with Midjourney. I enjoy the product quite a bit. It's got a different art style. And then let's put this into ChatGPT. So we can see here, we have a boy and girl. It's exactly what we wanted. So the boy and girl are going up a hill. The boy is wearing blue overalls, bucket of water. I mean, this looks pretty good. We do have a little minor error with the pail here, but not too bad. Love the impasto here with that's the brush mark where you've got a lot of the mark where you can see the brush strokes. This is more of a photo, so I'm kind of surprised to see that in here, but obviously a little anatomy issue. And then this one, which I also like. So you're going to find, in general, you're going to find that anatomy is a challenge for a lot of these models. And the reason is because hands, fingers, all these things, it doesn't understand how anatomy goes together at all. It doesn't understand how people are assembled. It's just seen a lot of pictures of people, and hands have a lot of different positions. So given that there are trillions of hand positions out there, and then most of the time there's more than one hand in a scene, some of this just gets mangled. So you can actually use in painting to correct a lot of these things. Sometimes you just get lucky and it's going to come out right. You're going to find, though, that in the next couple months, a lot of that starts to go away. So if you're concerned about anatomy and a lot of these things, don't be. Plus, aren't you really just after the background of the scene? Remember that we're photographers, right? What we're after is to get a background or a scene that we can use with our photography. So in this case, I really don't care about the anatomy of the kids because they're going to be replaced with clients. But just note that that's one of the reasons why you're going to find anatomy is a little bit tricky. It does get better, and it gets better every day. We have different examples of things. Okay, so we're back here in Midjourney. Let's go ahead and use that exact same prompt and see what we get. They do offer model personalization and things along that lines. We're not going to get into any of that. You can see some of these other prompts from things people have had me testing, saying, oh, show me how this works. So you can see it starts with a random noise, and then we'll try and find the image in that noise. The noise is random every time, and it's always different. So you're always going to end up with a different picture. You will never get the same picture twice. So you can see it has a completely different art style, one I enjoy. As I said, this is a very good looking picture. Again, a bit of anatomy issue, really rough oil painting. But again, this is something that I enjoy. Just the style of art to me, it makes me happy. So it looks great, good style. And we can do different things to try and change this. Again, iterating through, starting with something that you really like and then kind of iterating through, changing one word in the prompt and trying to troubleshoot your way through getting the image you want is part of the fun of this. It can be a little frustrating with anatomy and some things along that lines, but again, at the end of the day, you'll probably get something that's very close to what you want, and then you can go into Photoshop and minorly tweak it. So let's go into ChatGPT and try this same prompt as well and see how far we get. Okay, when you're in ChatGPT, you're going to notice at the top there's the chat model you're using. We're going to actually change this to ChatGPT 5, and then we can type in the prompt that we have. And you have to let it know what you're doing. So we'll say, show me a photo of, all right, show me a painting. And you have to you don't have to put these character terms, by the way. I'm just doing that so you can kind of see what's going on. Sorry, my My Grammarly likes to pop up because I like to spell things creatively, so this is annoying and it pops up all the time. Sorry about that. So let's see how this does. Sometimes it will tell you that because there's a kid involved, it won't generate the image. So you're going to find a lot of things about child safety in here are very big deals. So you're going to find that you're trying to generate something and it's just not going to let you because there's a youth involved. That's typical. So just be aware that asking for boys and girls in images will oftentimes land you with an error message. Not any sort of a ban or anything unless you're pushing the envelope there. But in general, just avoid pictures of kids and you'll be fine. Again, if you're looking for a generic background or a scene, you're not going to have any problem getting that. This will work out really well, but just understand that there's a lot of safety that involves these things. So if we go back and we take a look at what's being generated here, the other ones used a noise and then kind of discern the entire scene at once. This system works differently. It will actually start at the top and work its way down. So through the power of waiting, I'm going to go ahead and let this thing do its thing. It's going to take a bit, but you can see it starting to sketch from the top down. They haven't explained why it works this way, and frankly, it's intriguing to me because this is the way that our technology doesn't work this way. So what are they doing? How are they doing it? No one knows. Now, this system is what we call a multimodal system. A multimodal system means that it can do images, it can do sound, it can do speech, it can do other things. Now, whether they have that enabled or not yet, who knows? But you're going to see that sooner or later, some of that multimodality starts to pop up in here. One of the cool things about it, though, is that we can actually use directives inside of ChatGPT to modify things. Now, this is only available in ChatGPT, but you're going to find other products very soon, if not already, will start to carry this type of directive-based editing. Dream Studio will have it very soon as well. I don't know if Midjourney will or not. Who knows? That's, again, a private company. But let me show you what I mean by that type of thing. And it looks like our image is done now. So here's our picture. So now we can do things like a directive-based edit would be change her dress to a blue one with red flowers. Now you're going to notice as well that the images tend to be very warm on here. I know your Canon shooters are like, well, I don't know, looks fine to me. But in general, you're going to notice that this warmth is part of, so it tried to do this, but there's an error. It wasn't able to generate the modified version. And it's probably because of the girl. It's like, well, there's a kid involved in this image. What do you want me to do? And that's the problem. But in general, this type of directive-based editing is one thing you can do. So we can upload another picture and try it again, just to give it a whirl. Let's try a completely different picture. I'm just going to start with the weird. Let's just try something. So a flower, red flower in a vase in an abandoned lab. I don't know. We'll just find out what it's going to look like. But you notice that I didn't have to worry about the way that I worded the prompt so much. So in here, the type of mechanism, the natural language you talk to it is a lot more free. Prompt engineering, as I said, is kind of like a necessary evil now, but you're going to notice that that skill starts to disappear over time as these tools get more advanced. But this is a good example of where that tool is already kind of past the point of us needing to make sure to structure it properly. Now, I think I still have better success when I do use those rules. So don't discount that formula as complete hogwash now and old news. It's still a very good way to structure your thoughts behind this and to get a better result from this. Because it can still produce an image that checks all the boxes but isn't useful. So again, structuring the prompt the right way will get you further. But just note that this is, again, how technology is at the current date. So go back here and take a look at it. We can see we're getting the ceiling of an abandoned lab. I was thinking of, could it be a science lab? Could it be an old medieval lab? I was going to throw those words in there, but I thought, you know what? Let's just leave it up to creativity and see what happens. We can see we have a bit of depth of field. So it is looking a little bit blurry. We can kind of see the hint of a flower here. So it does create the noise, but the fact that it diffuses from the top down is just intriguing to me. My plan, by the way, is to change the flower color. So change the flower to a yellow daisy. So there's our image, and that's great. So now I'm going to tell it to change the flower to a yellow daisy. And we should end up with the same scene. It should not alter any other part of the scene. And we should end up with the yellow flower. This is very cool because you can upload a picture of a client and say, you know what, she didn't like her shirt that day. I just want to change the color of her shirt. You could ask for that to be done. Now, will it alter her face? Yes, it will alter her face because it wants to prevent deep faking from happening. But again, if we pull it into Photoshop and we're using masking anyway, we don't care because we're going to actually end up replacing them with the client. Plus, the resolution of these images in almost all of these systems is not very high. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to upscale it anyway using Topaz, or Dream Studio has an upscaler in it. Midjourney has one as well. But at the end of the day, they're not the size that we need with our DSLRs. So we're going to have to upscale it in Photoshop, and then we're going to put our client rack back on because our client is a high resolution image over the top of this low resolution background. So just keep in mind, you still will need some compositing at this point until we reach the point of parity where the images we create resolution-wise in these tools is equal to what our camera takes, which is going to be a while. It's just, to face it, the amount of memory it takes to do these things is a lot. And even a really decked out personal computer won't be able to match what you can pay for with a lab, which is why companies like Dream Studio or Stability, Midjourney, and OpenAI are good options, even to pay for them, even if you have a powerful machine, is because some of these models just can't run locally. You can't do this work on your own machine. Firefly, when you use it in Photoshop, actually goes back to Adobe, and that math is handled there because they don't expect everyone to have a great computer for doing it. So just understand there's a lot going on there that is being handled for you. Now, that also leads to privacy concerns. Where is your photo going? Who else gets to see it? Is your image being used to train other future models? Things along that lines. Those are all concerns, are all valid. Dream Studio doesn't do that because we're trying to attract more of the professionals, so we don't use those images for training. We do have the option for you to allow that to be happening, but in most part, I don't think anybody enables that. But other products like Midjourney, for example, does do that. That's just the way they run and the way they operate, and just know that that's part of that tool. ChatGPT depends on your agreement with them and how that all goes. So privacy is a thing. So let's go back and look at this and see how we're going. We can already see the hint of the yellow in there, so it looks like we're going to have some success. And it looks like it's the exact same room at this point, which is good. And there we go. So we have a yellow flower. Even the, looks like we're getting some of the albedo, which is the reflection of the yellow into the petals instead of the red. So that's nice detail. I can't see the reflection of the glass in the flower. Let's zoom in and see what we have there. No, I can't really tell. But note at the top here, we have this thumbs up and thumbs down. This is what we call reinforcement learning through human feedback, or what I call real life human feedback. You're telling it how it did, and this will affect the next version of the product. So to keep in mind that if you do want to learn, if you do want this product to be better and to learn, definitely give this type of feedback to things. And then we have the ability to download the image from here. There's also some other editing tools and stuff along that lines, but we're not going to do that. It's kind of out of scope for today, but you get the idea. So that's really kind of the basics of how to use these tools and prompting. So understand using that formula of generic scene description, and then again, all of the details about all of those major parts of the scene should be next. And then finally, you're going to want to put the art style. Do them in that order and be consistent. Even the different tools will all work well that way. Again, using natural language in some cases will be better. In some of the other places, a common delimited list of things you want is fine. You're going to find that different models are better at text. For example, ChatGPT and Dream Studio are pretty good at text. Midjourney is not, but the next version will be. So you're going to see that a lot of that it's getting past those points, those growing pains of like too many fingers and too many heads. That's all kind of getting past us. So it doesn't really matter what tool you're using. Just understand that if you have a good prompt, you're going to have a much better success than if you just kind of go in there ham-handedly and just do things. Again, I would not recommend using ChatGPT to try and generate prompts. It doesn't understand the concept of how these are working properly. So you're going to get something that's mediocre. But you can use it for ideation. Like, I'm looking for ideas for a prompt, ideas for a scene. That's a good idea. That's a good way to use that tool, but I would rewrite what it gave me for the best possible success. So once again, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you learned something, and look forward to seeing all the other speakers today at the AI Summit. Thank you again, Darty and Michelle, for a great time, and I'll see you guys in the springtime.